Hello and welcome back to Build HMS Victory. Okay, so while I'm waiting for a few parts to come so I can kind of carry on with that obviously gallery video that I kind of talked about in last week's video, I thought I'd just kind of keep myself busy. Like I say, I want to try and keep up my momentum with this HMS Victory build. So what I decided to do is obviously I wanted to start to work on obviously some gratings that I need to do to add to the foredeck. And like I say, so in the video you're about to watch, you can see how I completely obviously go off the instructions like I've been doing pretty much for the last year of this build, and pretty much all I'm going to be doing it's just working off this this actual picture, the grating for the foredeck that I used when I went to visit HMS Victory back in September 2019. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video and I'll see you all again soon. Okay, so in the instructions it asks us to make up the gratings in this way. So it asks us to make one, which is a 6x8 grating, and it asks us to make up two, which is two 6x6 gratings, which obviously going to make up the foredeck grates. Okay, so all I've done to start with, I've just made up two templates, just using the grating that came with the kit. And I've just made it so it's obviously in a grid. It'll be a 6x8 and a 6x6. But I'm not actually going to use these parts that came in the kit, but I've just used these as a template. What I'm actually going to use, I'm going to actually use these aftermarket parts from Amati. These are just a lot finer grating. These are like a 1x1 grating, and they just look so much better than using the ones with the kit. So I'll just put them side by side each other so you can kind of see just how finer they are, and just how more accurate you can actually make these gratings look a lot more to scale. Okay, so I've brought across the first grating I'm going to be working on. This is the first one that kind of just comes off the belfry, and as you can see, it's obviously the first part of the section is made up like actually two grids. Is obviously if we're going to make it following instructions, we'll just make this into one single piece. So I'm actually going to follow this this picture, and like I say, using these finer parts that we get from Amati, we can kind of make these up. So obviously, so this first section we actually need a 4x10. So what I've done already, I've already made a little 4x10 grating. So now I'm going to make this 5x10. So I'm going to show you how you do that, and then we're going to work on this outer frame. Okay, so I've got my first piece that I need, and all I'm going to start to do is just get some of this Gorilla wood glue. I'm just going to start to paint a little bit just inside these first holes, and I may as well paint the first 5. So now I've added some glue into the first 5. Just obviously the first notch on this next part of grating, I'm just going to drop that in, and then just taking a paintbrush that's just a little bit damp but clean. Just take off the excess and then put the next one in. Same again, take off the little excess where the glue spills out. That's 3. That's 4. So it's actually 4, but we've only got 3 gaps between them. So like I say, so we needed 5. So that's actually 5. Same again, I'm just going to clean the joint a touch. So now say we've got 4 spaces, so we just need 1 more. So all I'm going to do, just a final bit of glue in this last one, and just drop 1 more in. Okay, so that's actually 6 of these little grids, but actually we've got 5 spaces in between. So when I want to grid a 10x5, so now I'm going to turn it over. I'm just going to go all the way along until we get a space of 10. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and we'll put it on the 10th one. And then all we have to do then just line these all up. So that's a 10x5. Just make sure it's in the right position. It's going to correctly line up with 10. So that's going to give us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then all we do is just fill up these spaces, rest these parts. Like I say, so all I'm doing is put a little bit of glue on the first edge, open up a new pack. Yes, I'm dropping a bit of glue in the first slot and then one on the last one, and then drop the next one in. And like I say, it's taking the damp paintbrush and just take off the excess. And all I'm going to do now is just work my way all the way across and just fill in this little grid. And then we'll come back. Okay, so when you've kind of filled in all this grid, you just want to make sure that you've got 5 little holes, which is 5 going up, and you want to make sure you've got 10 across, which is obviously 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so now we just need to kind of trim this off around the edge, because one, so this is like the flush edge all the way around, like I did with this 4 by 10 one. Like I say, so you put that over, or you can just tell you're just going to have one more grid, slightly larger. So you've got a couple of options for this one. You can kind of cut it, obviously with your knife, you can just kind of cut it along the edge there. You can use obviously your razor saw, just get that nice and flush, and then use your razor saw. Because I've got my little circular saw, little circular table saw, I'm going to bring that over and I'm just going to use that just to flush these off. Okay, so I've brought across my little table saw. And all I'm going to do now is, like I say, you can kind of, I'm just going to do this kind of freehand. This is not the most accurate fence in the world, so it's probably found it a lot easier just to kind of freehand it. So what I'm going to do first is just kind of going to get it, the blade kind of tucked up into that corner. So all it's going to do is just trim off these loose bits, and pull it back, turn the blade on, and then just trim off these edges. And that's kind of the first one. So now I'm going to turn it onto its side, kind of take it back into that corner again. Like I say, I'm leaving that guard up just so you can kind of see. I'm going to kind of start in that edge. If anything, you want to kind of leave yourself probably a little bit of a overhang, so then you can sand some back. So then you just kind of back it off the blade, turn the blade on. And all you do then is just kind of keep turning it around, take off every one. Until all you've got left is just this last side. Like I say, possibly can just get yourself a little bit to sand off. Now let's give us a nice 6 by 10 little grid grating. Okay, so once it's come off the little table saw, just where you've got that like little bit hanging over, what you need to do is put onto a little bit of sandpaper. This is obviously an 800 grit, and then just sand it nice and smooth. Okay, so now we've got this 4 by 10 and this 5 by 10, and that's pretty much actually put it in the order of the picture, which is a 4 by 10 by a 5 by 10, and that's pretty much how it's going to be. Obviously, it's going to be made on the real Victory. Like I say, so the instruction now, it tells you to encase this with a 3x3, and obviously that's okay, but you can clearly see that the central column is actually smaller, so I'm going to make that a 2 by 3. And obviously make the outer casing in a 3x3. So this is some 3x3 we got with a kit. So I'm actually going to replace this with some nice walnut, but I ain't got the end of the minute. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to temporarily make one just to kind of show you the process. Then a little bit later, and actually remake it in walnut. But the process will be exactly the same as the one I'm going to show you now. Okay, so I've got this piece of 3x2, and like I say, that's a design where it's going to kind of fit between these gratings and separate them up. That's going to go just like that. That's it. So what I kind of want to show you, like, obviously we're not really changing the dimensions at all really much from this grid that we got. They're obviously going to make it just obviously to the instructions. So this grid that they wanted of a 6x6, that's kind of coming in at 23.4, and now we're just coming in at 22.1. So we've lost about a mil, and I can live with that. Just to obviously have a little bit more accuracy. Okay, so now we can start to make up this this outer framing. So like I say, all I'm going to do, I'm going to glue all these together. Like I say, I would like to replace these with some nice walnut. So I'll say, but I'll probably just make one and just make an extra one when I get around to that. So all I'm going to do, just kind of glue that. Make sure that I've left myself enough hanging over for this bottom piece, which I have. Like I say, just damp paintbrush to take off the excess. Okay, so now I'm going to use this 3x1. The same again, I'm going to do where we just glued down this edge. I'm going to glue this 3x2 in. That's going to press in that way. So I'm going to take this 4x10. Then that can just get glued in to the side of that one. Like I say, if you wanted it so you could take your gratings out, you just build it in a slightly different way. But I'll never take my gratings out, so I'll just glue all these together. So what I'm going to do then, just push that in, make sure it's all nice and square. Like you say, it's taking this damp paintbrush, taking off the excess, let's turn it over, make sure it's on that one. Glue a little bit down this edge, put that next 3x2 in. So again, let's take away the excess. So all I've got left to do now is just glue on this last 3x2. That's going to be glued along this edge. That's just going to press in just like that. The same again, let's take in this slightly moistened paintbrush, let's take off the excess. Okay, so I'm going to leave them to dry 5 minutes, and all I'm going to do then is just bring it back to a circle saw. I'm going to cut it just across there, and then smooth this edge up, and then we're just going to bring one more 3x3 across. I'm going to close all this in. So all I'm going to do now is just going to trim these parts that are fitted all nice and square. Okay, so when this has all been trimmed off, we should just look like that, which is obviously the grid of a 4 and a 5x10. So all we need to do now is probably just flushing off the ends with a little bit of sandpaper all the way around. We really go, we just trimmed it, make sure it's all nice and flush. Like I say, if this was a table saw was a lot more accurate, I would just cut the pieces individually, but I know that I can never get two cuts the same. Like I say, I need to upgrade it at some point. So all I need to do now is just glue on this last 3x2, trim it exactly the same as I've done, and that's its grating done. So just put it up as flush as I can, just obviously don't have to have too much waste. Like I say, I'll let that dry 10 minutes and then we'll cut it flush. Okay, so all I've done now is just trimmed off that last piece, exactly the same as we did all the other sides. So pretty much all we'll have to do now is just go around with some sandpaper, get a nice smooth over, and then just run over it with a nice tack cloth. Okay, so after getting this quick sand for around about 5 minutes, all that is left now is what I'd do is obviously it's all nice walnut cased. You just take some linseed oil. This is obviously just a refined linseed oil. This is a really old one, but I've had it for a long time and it lasts for quite some years. I'm just going to put a little bit onto a little bit of cloth towel, and then I'm just going to rub it all the way around, just this grating, just to protect and seal all the wood. Like I say, this was obviously a little bit of the mahogany or walnut that I'm going to be using to make the necklock casings. That'll really make that stand out. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I thought I'd never made any grating videos before, and like I say, from now on I can kind of, whenever I make any references, I can always like refer to this this video, because pretty much once you've kind of made one, you've made them 1,000 times. So anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you all again soon.